Well, it's still Wednesday morning, and this would have been relaxing painting with Dyson Dungeons starting at more or less 10 o'clock. I was actually right on time. But the internet crashed. I got 3 minutes and 30 seconds of being online before it just crashed, and it came back about 5 or 6 minutes ago, and so I came down here and trying to pick up where I left off. So if anybody had tried to watch relaxing painting or listen to it, I apologize. Well, I shouldn't apologize. Our internet carrier should apologize. I don't know. One of those things that's really annoying. So here I am being annoyed, and I've got a little less than 2 hours left before I'd normally stop. So I'm going to probably not dawdle too much. I like dawdling, but yeah, moving on. What I've got to do today is I need to finish the Bulette. And what needs to be done with that is that there's a smoky ink wash is going to go over all of the khaki colored carapace. So I'll be putting that on. And then I need to, once that dries, I'm going to make red oozes. I don't know if you can see it. Red oozing out of these black sores. And then I need to paint the base. I'm going to actually paint it light green and put a really blotchy green, this green wash that I used here. I'm going to blotch that all over to make it look kind of mossy. And then I may or may not attempt to paint the mycelium like I did on this one, kind of growing up into it. I may or may not try to do that. That depends on the time, because I need to move on to these guys. These guys are Tashiranoon, unlike the Wilstein Grotfelds that I painted earlier. These are kind of a quasi-religious cult. And there's a couple broken ones. Their weapons came off. These need to be cleaned up. From the rosin printer, there's little bits, you know how that happens. Sometimes little bits of things stick to them and need to be either filed off or cut off. So I'm going to wash the carapace here. And while that's drying, I'm going to clean these guys up so I can prime them so I can start painting them on Friday. Yeah, I will do a flip. Our internet just like totally crashed, and everything associated with it. I think the cable television, we still have that old school stuff, right? Cable TV. And actually our landline is voice over internet. So everything just went for a little over an hour. Let's do a flip. I'll take a chance, do a big flip. I'm going to do sear or no sear. 2, 3, 4, 5 to 1. Of course, it cheats a little bit. This isn't exactly flat. It's curved like that. So I think there's a slight bias toward that, but there we go. Okay, well, at some point I'll have to try to stop being annoyed and actually start doing this stuff. I'm getting a fresh bottle of the smoky ink out. The one I've got somewhere else here is I don't know, it's pretty heavily saturated. Maybe a little too dark. But anyway, we'll use that later when we're painting. It works really well for wood tone. And while the internet was out, I did a thing. I cleaned up about 80% of all the paint jars and bottles that were accumulated here. So I have a slightly larger work surface because it's not all covered in stuff. Slightly covered in stuff. Yeah, I need to mix this pretty well because it's a brand new bottle. Well, ooh, thanks for dropping in here today. That's good. Haven't seen you routinely and regularly. So this is a fairly dark wash. It is going to change the appearance dramatically. It's going to make it brown, kind of brownish, brownish reddish. I actually need another smaller brush as well um, for doing things like this where I've got a line that I don't want to cross. Careful not to break anything more that's not already broken. That this would be a good brush for the toes and things. Um, hmm. Yeah, I guess it's safe. I'm gonna really do my best just to hold it on the base here. I definitely don't want to hold it near the top, and I don't want to. So far, I have not broken off any of these little things, and I want to keep that streak of non-destructiveness going. So this was tested. These were all the different alternative colors for the carapace, and there's 5 different tests and 5 different washes, and this is the one that was chosen. It's going to be much more brown than the model here. I would have picked maybe this color, a lighter color, or maybe a brown undertone with the green on top. But this is what the artist in the family has chosen. So, going to go to it. What can happen? That can go wrong. That was rhetorical. These off so I can see. I think I'm going to start here. Now, this needs to go on pretty thin. Otherwise, we lose the greenish underneath. That It's kind of it, just not very much of it. Not quite dry brushing, but pretty close to it. And I want it to be a little splotchy. I want it to be totally uniform. A couple of spots that'll be a little darker. There, that was almost artistic. So what? Sew buttons. Be modern. Use zippers. That was a thing. That was like a grade school thing. That used to be a funny thing to say back in the day when the 7 and under demographic we aim for. And now that we're old, we start saying it again. I don't know why? Just to say it, I guess. I don't know. You can tell them a little bit. Well, thanks for the raid, and thanks for the follow. Welcome everybody. Thank you. That's really cool. Thanks so much. The stream today got seriously delayed. I just got started because the internet decided to not work. Whatever is out there, it just totally crashed. Totally, just nothing would work at all. And it finally came back. And so I rebooted everything, and I think everything's working. So what I'm doing here is finishing up the infected Bulette. This is a Bulette, which is a hideous, very, very dangerous Dungeons and Dragons monster. And this particular one, thanks for the raid, and thanks for joining in, and thanks for the follows. We want lots of followers and YouTube subscribers and fans. We need fans of Dice and Dungeons. Like a groupies. That's what we right. Who? I'm trying to make this look, a little bit not streaky, but uneven, so it looks a little more realistic and not just like it's paint. Kind of just randomly blopping some things on. Well, I think that's actually true. I think that Bulettes, because of their appearance and the fact that they burrow underground and they seem to be just mindless killers, they get that reputation. And so someone runs into one, and what do? They like run away in fear. And so the Bulette is just left there being just kind of abandoned. It's really not very nice to do that. Or they immediately start attacking. And then what is the Bulette supposed to do? But, respond in kind. It doesn't want to get killed. So I think that's actually true, that a Bulette just wants some attention. Now, if you've been watching our Dungeons and Dragons show, you know that our changeling druid, Zorian Sewell, adopted a Bulette egg and now has a Bulette. Baby Bulette that comes along with us on our adventures. Its name is Sevens, although our bard keeps insisting that its name is tens. It's really sevens. Lighter here toward the nose. Shade it low lighter. But that Bulette is a member of our party. So yeah, we have a baby Bulette. Zoria calls it her baby, because it is. It's a little baby raised from an egg. It's very cute, you know. But most people are afraid of these guys. I don't know why, just because of their size and the fact that they've got tiny little eyes. This one, unfortunately, is infected with a fungus. So I said this before on this stream, and I'm hoping it's true that what will happen is just like with the lion with the thorn in its paw, that what will happen is that we'll find some way to cure this bulette, and it will then join us as a it will join us on our side in the battle that we're fighting with these guys up here that are slightly off screen, okay, that are going to be our adversaries. Anyway, I'm really kind of hopeful that that would happen. I don't see why not. I think it's going to be this bulette, but I really think that that's what we're going to do. So I want, I think our druid and our bard need to begin looking at their medicine and their healing skills or whatever they've got to see whether there's anything we can do to cure the fungus infection on the bulette here. But if we can, I'm pretty sure we can cure it. I'm pretty sure that it will aid us in our battle. Feather this a little bit more. Got dark there, but then this is actually coming out pretty decent. I kind of like the way it's looking. It's almost like I know what I'm doing, but I don't. Anybody who's watched this stream for more than once knows that I really don't know what I'm doing when it comes to doing this kind of shading. I can't reach it with that brush. So I very quickly reach over, grab another brush, let that one dry out and get unusable. So I think we're going to run into this bulette, and I really hope that what we can do is cure it so that it helps us in our battle, because it's going to be a very bad battle. I mean, bad in the sense of extremely challenging. It's not going to be like running into two kobolds or something, as level 8 characters. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be difficult. Okay, I need a little bit more of the wash, and I'm working on its toes now. Using this other brush that I just got started with, because the toes are smaller and they're harder to reach. Make the toes probably darker than I did the rest of it. Other than worrying about this, the Bulette, which I am pretty sure we're going to run into in our campaign, because that's what the stream is about, right? It's painting dungeon tiles and minifigs for the Dungeons and Dragons show. And so I've been given these minifigs, some Ulstein Grotfeld ranged weapon bearers in this Bulette, and now to Shiranoon elves to paint, and that, our DM wouldn't have taken all the trouble to print them on the rosin printer if they weren't going to be used. So I'd say odds are like 99%, because there's always a chance that something different would happen. Not much of a chance, like 1% or less, that we won't be running into this Bulette and the other things I've been painting. Probably going to happen that right now I am going back to the roots of relaxing painting, which is to paint the minifigs that will show up in our Dungeons and Dragons show. And in this case, it's an infected Bulette, a bunch of dwarves that hate us because, well, okay, so we blew up some of their stuff and we stole some of their stuff. It was a mission. We were on a mission and had to do that because it's what we were getting paid to do. Okay, I think this actually looks pretty good. Okay, I think the shading, it kind of worked out. There's some darker spots and some lighter spots. There aren't any real bad brush marks. The toes came out all right. The infectedness of it, it's a little dark. The green wash was on there pretty heavy, but I think it serves the purpose. So I'm going to let this stuff dry, and then come back to it and paint the red oozing out of the open sores. And while that is drying, I'm going to clean up these Shiranoon elves and repair their broken weapons. To get some needle files. To the extent that this is a how-to show, which it kind of isn't, but to the extent that it is, this is a how to do things when you're not a professional model maker or painter, but you're just kind of, doing things and maybe starting out and don't have a lot of great techniques and stuff, because that's the skill level I'm at. Usually this brush holds a lot of so one of the things I've talked about is if you're on a pretty limited budget, and as you can see by the not sophisticated studio that I'm working in here, which is a workbench with a piece of cardboard on it and some paper towels, pallets like this that are designed for elementary school painting projects. So you use them once and throw them away. But I keep cleaning them and use them for about 6 months before I throw it away. So if you're dealing with a budget like that, this stream actually might be kind of helpful, because it shows what can be done on a non-existent budget. I lied a little bit. There is some. I have invested in certain things, like decent brushes. Okay, getting good brushes, especially tiny little fine pointed 10-0, 20-0 brushes is a good thing. The head magnifier that I've used before, that's worth investing in, unless you're younger and you can actually still see things. But the head magnifier was an essential investment. But these things, I would recommend that if you're going to be doing any kind of like modeling at all, that you get some needle files. And I have a set of 6 of them, one of which is missing, right? Of course. There's like a triangle, a flat one, and they seem to be magnetic. I'm not sure why. It's a flat one with a point on it. This is an important one. It's a round one here that has a point, which is really good for like opening up holes or getting into little nooks and crannies. I'm going to use this triangular one. And what I'm going to be doing with this is going over these models because they just came out of the rosin printer. And what there are is there's spots on them. There's just stuff on them that shouldn't be there, like dangling off the bottom of the arm here. You can, most of the time it comes right off. Okay. It's just like one of the support structure strings. And then here on the side of the bow, see that? The thing is that when it's like that, it doesn't show that much, but once it's painted, it will really show up as a flaw. Something like that isn't going to just snap off without breaking the thing underneath it, which is the bow, and I don't want to do that because there's already pieces here that need to be put back on. File like this lets me rub it off, messing up the rest of the surface that much. These, it's just, the printing quality is really pretty good on the rosin printer. There's a lot of detail, like little hooks and things on the bow. But then there's these other things that don't belong there. I should use the round one on that because it's a round thing. But then, I'm just saying that if you're working on a low budget, but you want things to look, pretty good, if you want things to look pretty good, a set of needle files like this is really helpful, because if you're doing your own printing, and sometimes even if you get a commercial, something commercially printed for you, you're just going to find these kinds of little flaws on it that need to come off. And if you're building a model kit, like I do when I'm not doing minifigs, if you're building a model kit, you're going to find that, there's little bits left over from the sprues that have to be taken off. There's seams from where the mold comes together. And a set of needle files is a good way to get rid of that. But you don't want to, if you're doing a model, you don't want to file it right down to the surface, because these leave scratch marks on the plastic. Not so much on these, but on a plastic model kit. And so you use this to get it like 95% off. But then you want to use a really nice fine sandpaper to get the last bits off, so that you don't have scratch marks all over the model, because those will show just as much as these little protuberances, which here is taking a hugely long amount of time to clean up. But that's okay. I'm waiting for the wash to dry on the Bulette. Okay. Well, then this looks okay. I'm going to be priming these either later today or sometime tomorrow, depending on the temperature and the well ventilated area that I have. One wants to spray paint in a well ventilated area. Okay, it's done. Not doing these right away. These are going to need repair. There is right here on the shoulder, the same spot. I think it's just something in the way the support attachments. You can see how you can see it right there. It's pretty big. Anyway, yes, I would say that if you are going to be doing any kind of modeling, especially if you're doing plastic model kits, that from my experience working on an extremely limited budget, that investing, other than the model kit and the paints, right? Of course, the model kit and the paints, that's kind of a given, that if one has extra money, I'd invest in needle files first. Well, okay. Among the things you need to have is you need to have the model kit, you need to have the paints, and you need to have brushes. And you probably can get away with maybe 3 brushes. One, kind of a bigger brush like that. Okay. For painting larger surface areas. And then you want a really teeny brush like this one that has a really, really fine tip on it for highly detailed stuff. And then you want to brush in between. And then if you can get additional brushes, like if you've got money for some other brushes, you can get these are pretty cool. They're long, but very pointy. Okay. So those are good for like holding a fair amount of paint and then painting lines, the boundary lines between 2 different colors. You probably can get away with maybe just with 3 brushes, but get good ones that, are going to hold up and not just the bristle. You don't want the bristles falling out. I've had some cheap brushes where that happened. That was not worth it, because not only then do you end up having a brush that doesn't apply paint, but then you get bristles in your paint because when they fall out. So, invest in pretty good brushes. And then if you have any money at all, I'd say get some, I wouldn't jump to the needle file right away. I would get some sandpaper. Okay. Really, like 400 grit, 800 grit, and a minimum of 1200, maybe 1800, because you can sand this stuff off as well as file it. It takes a little longer, but it doesn't leave scratch marks as much. So you can start with like a 400 grit and then polish it off with a 1200. Great. There's a little string there that between the quiver and the body. There. Having an X-Acto knife isn't a bad thing, but it's not essential. So get some good sandpaper, 400, 600, 1200 grit. Okay. And then if you still have any money left, get some needle files, because that will really help in preparing the surface of the stuff you're working on. Great archers. You know, we're going to run into these guys, and they've got ranged weapons. It's always a pain. So, the model kit, the paints, you don't have to paint your models. Okay. When I was building them in elementary school, I never painted the models initially, just put them together. They weren't display quality or anything, but an airplane looked like an airplane and a ship looked like a ship. But paints and then good brushes. Sandpaper, and then needle files. Then, depending on your eyesight, you might want to invest in a head magnifier. That will be a fairly significant investment compared to these other things. But at least for me and my level of eyesight, it's kind of essential. Like when I'm painting these and I'm painting the different armors and the arrowheads and stuff like that, just I can hardly see without it. So it's essential for me to have those. And then you have a choice. You can do a lot by just hand brushing, but if there's any large surfaces or if you're using glossy paints or whatever, you're just going to end up with brush marks, and the only ways around that are to either get spray paints or an airbrush. And I can't recommend one or the other. I can tell you which one is why one or the other. You definitely need to spray the paint somehow. I bought an airbrush, which is not a cheap investment, and tried to use it and just was unsuccessful. Just have not, I don't know, maybe if I just really work at it for a good long time, learn how to successfully use an airbrush. An airbrush lets you use every color of paint that you have. You're not limited to what you can get in a spray can. So that's a real advantage in terms of modeling, is to be able to just use any color. And it gives you a much better control over it, because you can adjust the nozzle to either spray like big, broad areas at once or tiny little lines, that kind of thing. You can do a lot of stuff with an airbrush. And so if you think that you can learn how to use it, I would say definitely do that. If you're like me and you just lapsed into airbrush despair, like I've tried it a couple of times. One time it went really well, and another time I had so much paint everywhere other than where I wanted it. It took the better part of a full day just to clean up. So a lot of it depends on your persistence and skill in learning how to use it. As I'm getting into other kinds of models here, I mean, you don't need an airbrush with these little minifigs. Just get a can of primer, because how would you do that? They're so tiny, the masking would be overwhelming. But for something like the Apollo model that I've been working on, or the model that I might do after the Porco Rosso, if I build an airplane, an airbrush becomes kind of essential. So I would say that I'd put that on your list of things to invest in, to definitely invest in if you're going to be doing modeling on a budget. Right after the materials you need to just prepare the surfaces so you can do anything with them at all, the sandpaper and the needle files. Because that surface preparation is tedious, time-consuming. As you can tell on this stream, it just takes up a lot of time and doesn't seem to, what you see. You see the same thing you saw before, except you don't see little flaws on it. This is really fragile. It's the blade of a dagger, but there's a nubbin on the end of it. Scientific term. The professional term for a blob of plastic that isn't supposed to be there. So side here too. And I can't put much pressure on it, or otherwise it'll snap off like these guys did. I didn't break those off. Those came to me broken. So I'm not going to take responsibility for that, but I don't want to break this off. To support it underneath and file it with light pressure, which means it takes longer. So yeah, in terms of investing in things, those are some things I would definitely invest in, and I would encourage everybody who wants to, build models, to get a good airbrush that has a nice adjustable nozzle, and maybe even an adjustable force, how hard it sprays. And then don't get discouraged, but just keep at it until you're good at it. I practiced with just plain water for a while. I just put plain water in the airbrush just to figure out how to aim it and how to adjust the nozzle and stuff like that. It was okay using plain water because other than everything around me being wet, it didn't require a lot of cleanup. But then, painting part didn't go all that well. Okay, these guys, this is a special figure. Those are just regular Tashiranoon archers and blades people. This is kind of like how I learned. I was taught by a Tashiranoon. My character on the D&D show, my character was taught by a Tashiranoon fighter like this, dual wielding, and generally a long sword and a dagger. It's kind of how my character learned battle. So I'd be very familiar when running into these guys. I'd be very familiar with what they would be doing. My familiarity, I should tell the DM that my familiarity with the Tashiranoon style of two-handed blade fighting should give me advantage. sure she would disagree with that, but I might bring that up. Is that why wouldn't my character have an advantage fighting against someone with whose fighting style with, I don't know, how would that be said, with who the person's fighting style would be very familiar to me, because that's how I was trained by a master in that particular fighting style. This is a semi-boss character. This is a tabaxi, you can tell by the tabaxi tail, that has been hanging out with the Tashiranoon for a reason we don't understand completely. Probably not a good thing. And this particular character is, wow, there's a lot of detail on the cape even. That's pretty cool. I don't know if you can see it. There's like a embroidery or an embossment of like the edges here with the little swirly bits. I will definitely be expected to paint that in the Tashiranoon silver against the Tashiranoon green. Oh, even on the hammer. There's even special little embossments on the hammer. Okay, this is going to take the better part of 7,000 hours to paint nicely. I might try to make this almost like a display quality. You know, the boss characters, as opposed to just the run-of-the-mill, just warriors and archers. Pretty clean, it looks like. Support strand there that was very obvious. Yeah, the detail on this is pretty good. This is going to require a fair amount of attention during the painting of this guy. Okay, well, it's going to be work. So these folks up here are ready for priming. These two are missing some weapons. So I'm going to just check around and do some cleaning up on them, and then reattach the weapons. This one lost an arm and a weapon. So for the reattachment, you know, you're going to get your arm back and your weapon back. I have a choice of either using epoxy or contact cement. And I have, if I were younger and had better eye-hand coordination, I would use cyanoacrylic, brand name super glue. Okay, I would use that because all I would need to do is put a little drop on the spot where it broke off and touch it, and it would grab, and it would just be done. But I don't use that because my aim isn't always that good. Okay, and that would cause a problem, a two-level problem. One is getting the glue in the right spot to begin with, right? That would be an issue. And the other issue would be attaching the piece to the right spot. So even if I got the cement in exactly the right place, I might not get the piece in exactly the right place. And then then what? Then I have to re-break it. And I don't want to do that. The contact cement is a little harder to use. It's really viscous. I mean, it's like jelly-like, so it's hard to get on. But it does grab right away. You know, it has the advantage that the cyanoacrylate has in that it immediately grabs, which if I used epoxy, it sort of does, but even if I use the 5 minutes stuff, you have to hold it in place until the stuff pretty much sets. Whereas with the contact cement, it holds pretty well right away. Anyway, that's what I'm going to start with that. And if it works, I will finish with that. If it doesn't work, then I'll try something else. So the first thing is look at the model, and the blade is angled down. So it goes there. Wasn't a real clean break. So the other thing about the contact cement is it does give, like the epoxy, it does give a little bit of time to get it in place and adjust it. It also fills in any gaps. Okay, I think I try to use the tweezers. The problem with the tweezers is that sometimes when you're holding something like this, it can pop off the tweezer. You know, if it's a rounded thing like this, and then it goes flying, and that poses a significant problem of finding the thing that went flying. Okay, that's how it fits. So I need water out of the way, move this out of the way. These universal tools, this universal implement toothpick for getting the stuff to stick onto the spots I want it to stick on. So again, this isn't ideal stuff, and I'm not recommending that anybody else use it, because if you can get away using CA glue, definitely do that. You know, definitely do that. It's just, you know, it's just faster. It's just a matter of accuracy. And if you have accuracy, okay, then CA glue will work really well for you. I don't have accuracy. As people have asked before, why don't I use that? It's just that I don't have accuracy. And so I need something that, even though it may not be the best choice, for me, it's kind of like the only choice, because it's the only thing that kind of works. See, it does grab on right away, and it gives me some opportunity tweezers. Gives me some opportunity to reposition things. That I'm doing here. it takes a while for it to set up. It has to sit for like a day, almost 24 hours before it's really solid. But unlike epoxy, unlike epoxy, you can see that it holds things in place pretty well. If that were epoxy, it would just be falling off until it was almost set. The other thing I found about this that I kind of like is that it's like, to some extent, it's like rubber cement, which is a contact cement. If there's really too much, you can kind of rub it off. Okay, so this is keeps curling. I want it to not curl. Maybe if I lean it back like this. I'm going to set it down like that and see where it goes. Okay, this guy has oh, that's not good. That's not good yet. There's still a blob on the end of the dagger. But the other downside of the internet having gone out, other than it, the stream being delayed by an hour and 10 minutes, is that while I was waiting for the internet to come back, I finished the tea I was drinking, and there isn't any more. Well, I'm not saying there isn't any more. There is more tea, but it's not brewed. Would really like to have some tea right now. This is a bigger piece. Okay, an entire arm came off here. I probably should see how it goes. Broke off. It should be a way to arrange that so like the broken part matches the broken part, but it's not. I don't know what happened here. Oh, okay. Oh, that's the angle. Got it. And he's got a big blob on his elbow. Good thing I saw that. I'm using official modeling terms. Blob, like that nubbin of extra rosin there that needs to come off. Before I put the contact cement on this, I want to check the dagger on the other one to see how its alignment is working. Being held differently than But that is what it is. That's how it's going to be. If it wants to be this way, it's going to be this way. So there. Okay. I'm going to start with this stuff is really getting unusable. To try to get some stuff out of the way here and try a little more. So I get these pieces attached. I'm going to go back to the Bulette and paint the base green. Try to remember how this went. It's swinging way forward, I think, like that. Yeah, that's how it. Huh. Okay. It's not exactly right, but it's not too bad. I'm not sure it's designed to be away from the body, but I'd like it to be away from the body because then it's easier to paint. Yeah, that looks like it's where it should be, and it's not falling off, and not bending around too much. The contact cement is filling in that little gap pretty well. I think that'll do. I'll get to do this again. This one of these again. This is just not shaping up. It's on the back of that like that. Let's see if this is still usable. This contact cement is really good at gripping onto itself, but sometimes it's not very good at gripping onto the surface that needs to be gripped. You know, if that made any sense at all. It's with tweezers. I should do this further up. So in case it falls again, it falls. Not on the floor. Falling not on the floor is what I want. So it seems to be, these seem to be going okay. I mean, definitely like they're attached, which is something they weren't. They were definitely not attached. Just a bit ago. But now they are attached. Although maybe not perfectly aligned, they are pretty good. Let me let this guy tangle like that. Okay. Back to the Bulette. few things I need to do yet, and I'm not sure. I'll move along as well as I can. One is painting the base. The other is painting the red oozy stuff. And I think I need to paint the red oozy stuff first. Not oozy like like the gun, but oozy like an OOZ, like ooze, like this. Okay, the black sword with bloody pus stuff oozing out of it, which will require some sort of artistic talent that I may not have. I'll find out. I have to look at the open sore and imagine where is the bloody pussy ooze coming from and how far will it drip. There, that's something to think about, isn't it? Using glossy red, which doesn't cover very well. So this will pose its own challenge. I should move everything. If I should move the camera over, maybe a little bit. Move my work spots over. I'm going to use this brush. I haven't used this very much before, but it's a pretty good brush. Fine point on it, which theoretically gives me good control over where paint goes. The oozy stuff would kind of pool up in the bottom here, up in the bottom of the oozy thing. Maybe like extend up a little bit, like there would be little sort of like tendrils of ooziness coming down. And then it would drip over the edge. That. So does that look like a running sore? I think it does. Take the challenge and do the one on top here. And the bloody ooze will kind of puddle in here. It'll extend up a little bit into the corner there. And then it's going to come down and mostly puddle here. And then maybe it would kind of like come down to the end and ooze out of the bottom. Not very much though, just a little rivulet. Kind of like that. That looks okay. I mean, it doesn't look okay, It's not supposed to look okay. It's supposed to look like this is definitely not okay. So sometimes when you're making models, minifigs, you have to imagine oozing running sores, right? And that's what's happening here. Oozing, running sore, oozingness. So it might have a little more dripping from it. It's a really deep one. That's pretty good. If I got one up here on the face, guess I'm going to work on that's getting gummy. The paint is getting gummy in the bottle cap. Maybe I'll work on this one. That's okay too. Get okay. I've just got this huge one up in the front. This is just very sad. It's just gigantic open wound. Maybe this will be like rivulets inside of it. Yeah, that looks like it hurts. Okay. There. Now I'm ready to paint the base. Get the bottle cap on. Challenged by the bottle cap. Oh, I should move these figures a little bit further away so I don't smash them, right? Right. Okay, those pieces are still attached. That's a good thing. I'm gonna need this because I'm gonna be using the Yeho stuff that splooshes out. Using all sorts of technical terms like splooshing and before I do that, I'm going to need to take just a couple minutes break. Anybody who's familiar with this will know it as a bio break before I start painting around the toes. I'm not going to put the break sign on at all. I'm just going to let you look at paint drying, and I'll be back in just a minute. One can have relaxing painting only if one is relaxed, and I wasn't, so now I am more relaxed. I'm going to use this brush. That's another new brush that I've used once to paint around the toes. And then this big brush to paint all the rest of it, because it's all going to get painted this light green and then blobby washed in the green wash that I used on the body of it. Used a lot of this light green on the submarine. For some reason, I don't know why, a lot of the bulkheads were painted this light green. One of these days, I might show off the submarine again if I ever feel brave enough to dig it out from behind the bunch of boxes and stuff. The problem with that and the Apollo model, both of them, is that they're too big to display. And they have all sorts of surfaces that can catch dust, and they would just be a mess. Okay. I really wish that this would hold it, but it's way too heavy. I tried that once before with a heavy model like this, and it was a total disaster. Why is this brush so stiff? Okay. So I'm going to have to hold it like around the edges of the base here while I paint around the toes and the feet. So this green just, it looks very inappropriate, you know, this bright green. But when the wash is on it, it will look very different. It will look swampy and mossy. And then the decision about whether to try to paint mycelium growing up through the swampy, mossy stuff into its feet, that's a decision that'll have to be made after it dries. If the paint isn't covering, like if it's slightly splotchy, because I want it to be even splotchier when I put the wash on it. Too high there, but I guess that will do. It'll be okay. Let's push the brush up against it too far. This paint dries pretty quickly, so I think I'll be able to put the wash on before 1 o'clock. Yes, and I know, even though I started late because the internet broke, I'm not going to necessarily make up the time. Okay. Even for an hour less. You know, we get so dependent on these things. So the internet goes down and everything just stops. Used to, I'm going to give a used to here. Used to be that the internet was a dial-up modem. You know, we had to work really hard to even get a connection, and it was very slow. There were no such things as transmitting pictures over the internet. You were kind of lucky if you could send text reliably. Those were the days, right? People nowadays can scarcely imagine a time when it was so primitive. Hi, Oblivion. Thanks for joining in. This is the last half hour of Relaxing Painting with Dice and Dungeons Wednesday edition. I'm doing my best to pronounce it correctly. And I am painting an infected Bulette, infected with some sort of fungus that is very likely to show up on our Dungeons and Dragons show in the future. This stream was designed, well, it was never really designed. The stream started because we produce and paint the minifigs and dungeon tiles that we use on our show. And our DM thought it would be somehow a good idea to stream, since they're down here painting anyway, to go ahead and stream it. And that's why this is getting streamed, because our DM thought that that would be an interesting thing to do. I don't know if it's interesting to or not, but it's no extra work for me because I'd be doing this anyway. I just wouldn't be talking about it while I was doing it. So there, welcome to Relaxing Painting with Dice and Dungeons. This is almost done. I'm just painting the base now. I've base coated it and washed it and shaded it and completed the oozing open sores that have formed on it because of its infected state. This base, I'm base painting it this bright green because I want the green to show through. But I'm going to be washing it the same green as on the flanks here, and sort of blotching the. I messed up the toe just by screwing around here at the end. I'm going to be splotching the wash on it. I wonder if I can fix that. I'm going to try a little bit later. I got careless there. Just as the last brush stroke the very last brush stroke, of course, would be I brought the brush up to the surface much too quickly and just touched it in the wrong spot. I'm going to put a little bit of, it's up here too. Yeah, I'm going to try to fix those. Oh, I didn't see that. That's really not good. I got it way up on the toenail up here in front because a lot of it depends on the angle that I hold the work at, and obviously was the wrong angle. The tricky part here is there's no place to hold it. Comes time to paint the edges of this. I'm not sure. I think I'll just set it down. I'm going to just set it down on a piece of paper and just spread the paint around on the edges when it comes time to do that. Have any other really good way to do that? Or I get this green on here. Get it. I almost got it not on my fingers. Again, right near the end, like the last bit. I'm going to try to touch up the toes. On here, and then just paint around the edges. And if I get the paint on the paper, well, that's just fine. Yep, you can tell it's near the end of the stream. I'm getting paint where I don't want it. I'm dropping things. It always, that's another reason I've gone from, instead of 10 until 2, 9 until 10 until, not 9, 10 until 1, because inevitably near the end of the stream, just, I become clumsier. Sometimes forget how to say words, start dropping things, making mistakes with the paint. That kind of thing starts to happen, which makes it maybe, more interesting, but not as effective. I almost messed up that toe. Okay, I'm going to attempt where the toe is a mess there. Where I got the green paint up too far on the toenail. And it's, it's up far enough that it might even be visible on camera. I'm going to attempt to fix that by just using the wash, the smoky ink wash, and just putting it over this green. I'm not sure. Well, it's like instead of fixing it, it's covering it up. And I've done that successfully several times before, where it's not so much a expert repair as it is a cover it up so you can't tell it's there. Which is okay with model making. It's not okay for things like insulating a house or dealing with electrical wiring or something like that. I would recommend definitely not taking the approach of, you want to watch me clean the brush here, not taking the approach of covering up a mistake rather than fixing it. Drop something on the floor, I have to get it. See me knock. Yeah, you can tell this is close to the end of it because things are definitely happening that are not helpful. All right, I need to have a tiny brush with using the wash here to fix the toenails. This black paint, that would have been a real problem. That really would have been bad if I'd gotten the black paint on it. See what I mean? I didn't take the little cap off the brush. This is going to get this could be a really interesting last couple of minutes of this, the way it's going. Okay, this is good. It's not like I said. It's not like it is like I said, in that I am successfully covering up the problem rather than fixing it. The appropriate way to fix it would have been to repaint it the base color and then put the wash on it, but I'm not doing that. I'm just covering it up. And the covering up worked. Looking to see if there are other places that need covering up. No, there are some places that need some green paint, though. As I'm looking at it, there's just little spots. Yeah, the toenail definition is. I didn't break it. That's good. Yeah, this is okay. Paint is still pretty wet in the center. There's a lot of paint there. What I'm going to do is brush it out so it dries faster. Because and I almost spilled the water. Yeah, this is really starting to get dangerous. So I've like dropped something. I've made a couple of mistakes with the paint. I almost spilled the water by knocking into it. What can I do? I'm going to, while this is drying, give it a little time in. I'm going to wash these brushes in in isopropyl alcohol because they're holding a fair amount of paint, more than I like held in a brush. It's not clean. The water did an okay job, but not totally. Bob Ross did this. I watched him on Monday. That's how he washes his brushes. Swishy, swishy, swishy like that. But he doesn't wipe them. Well, he kind of wipes them in a cloth, but he usually just shakes them into a bin or something that he's got where he shakes painty water. I guess somebody else cleans up after him. I have to clean up after myself, so I'm not going to do that. But I can do this. I can do the swishy, swishy stuff. Okay. Now I need to decide what brush to use to put the wash on and make it look blobby. This would be the most obvious one. Better cap this up. I do not want to spill that. I think this brush. This is kind of, yeah, it's not that big, but I think I'm going to use it. I'm going to do that when I put the wash on. I don't want it to look uniform. I want it to look really splotchy. And I've got 2 bottles of this green wash. The paint might not be totally dry, but that's okay. It'll just make it look more splotchy. I'm going to use the old green wash because it's got more pigment in it. And I want this to be pretty heavily pigmented. And I got 10 minutes left. Yeah, I think I'm going to actually be able to finish this. I'm going to open it with this. Sometimes with these bottles, when opening them, they pop out, the stuff splotches out. How many times have I said splotching? There's a lot of splotching going on today. Okay, I'm just going to leave it there. And this is what I'm doing. Just the color, so it's not that bright green anymore. looking. I want it to look floppy. I want to be able to rotate it without knocking anything over. Let's see how that goes. The spots will be almost black. That's good. Highly refined technique. Splash, 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 splash. Once again, I have to let you know I really don't know what I'm doing. But I figure I can't mess this up too much because I want it to look all splotchy. And need to accomplishing splotching sometimes is really, it's going to take a long time for some of those spots to dry. They're really deep, but that's good. That this bright green to disappear underneath the blotchiness. Well, I said blotchy, not splotchy. Which is it? Is it blotchy or splotchy? I'm not even being consistent in my use of nonsensical words. Well, this abbreviated session of relaxing painting with dice and dungeons. Just want to say thanks to the new follows and the people who did first-time chats. It's really appreciated. I want to invite everybody to watch our Dungeons and Dragons show, which streams on Twitch with a live chat 3 Sundays a month at 2:00, and you can catch all of the old episodes on YouTube or listen to them as a podcast. And it's a really good D&D show. It's been going on for a long time, so it's not one of those just, you get 10 sessions and it's over. It's a very kind of complex, interesting, multifaceted world that our DM created. Gets us into trouble sometimes, gives us a break sometimes. We have a lot of fun producing the show. And I think anybody who watches it or listens it would have fun watching it or listening to it. So I want to implore, beg, cajole, whatever it takes to get people to watch the show or listen to it. And just as a reminder, this particular stream, holy cow. So you couldn't hear that because the microphone screams out. We've got a couple of dogs, and they are, holy, what the, jeez. I'm doing a cover up here. I somehow got a spot of the green paint on the back of the leg of this, not the washing, but the green paint. Okay. I need to fix that. That's really not good. And I'm going to fix it with the red paint because that will cover it up better. Sometimes those things just happen, and it's so not good. No, really, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a spot. Holy cow, two. I don't know if that splashed up there or what. But that was the base coat. I mean, it's not even the wash that I was blobbing on. It was the base coat where I was being careful. Got way up on the leg. And so I'm going to disguise it under the red veining. Try to get the base coat. Wow, that was weird. I'm glad I saw it. Anymore, like it must have when I was raising the brush. Like I said, sometimes getting the brush to or from the surface. Yeah, that kind of shook me up actually. Being a little bit, I mean, it shook me up. It annoyed me significantly. It was just of all things, that was not the thing I expected. I was not prepared for. I'm just going around now to make sure that I don't have any more bright spots. This bright green. I have, I think, successfully accomplished splotchiness or blobbiness, depending on which you prefer. Looks sufficiently blobby. Just here. Yeah, there was a major rumbling of the dogs barking and running across the floor above me. Okay. At some point in the stream, there's the point where it's yep, I got the dark wash on the carapace and I got the open sores with the oozing blood. I'm going to move the camera a little bit. Maybe show it from the side. I don't want to twist it there. I think it came out looking okay. And I just finished blobbing or blotching the base. So there, it looks pretty decent. I can rotate it a little bit here. Okay, one more thing. There's just one more thing. I hope I actually can pull this off without a problem. Is the nostrils. Need to put little black spots in the nostrils. Do that, and then it will be done and ready to kill us. It'll be ready to kill us in our Dungeons and Dragons show. But again, I want to thank everybody who became a follower today. Thanks so much for your support. And want to invite everybody to watch our Dungeons and Dragons show. To do this without my head magnifier, that's always slightly risky. And I'm going to hold it somewhere here. Come on. Oh, my little pen isn't making ink. Guess I'm going to have to invest in a new one. This one's a little bit bigger. It's a little bit. Okay, well, that wasn't good. I got it on the model itself. Yeah, that'll do. It's not too bad. Yeah, I got the brown wash on the carapace, and I think I splotched it around enough so it doesn't look too uniform. I got the running sores running. There, maybe I should do it on camera. And got the base done. So I think this is finished. And what I'll be doing on Friday then is working on these Tashiranoon archers and swords and fighters. Probably not these two guys. They require special attention, but I'll be working on those 6. Their color combo is green and silver. And there's a lot of detail on them, so we'll see. I'll see how long it takes, but there's the infected Bulette. Oh, good. There's some bubbles. That's good. That's the infected Bulette that I am afraid we are going to run into on our Dungeons and Dragons show sometime in the not too distant future. And it's probably going to be really angry, like not happy because of running sores and fungus growing up out of it. It's probably going to be even more Bulette-y than a Bulette usually is. Anyway, thank you again. Thanks, everybody, for joining in. I'll be back on Friday at more or less 10 o'clock. I was delayed today because the internet crashed. I was 3 minutes and 25 seconds, 3 minutes and 30 seconds into the stream, and it just blew up, just stopped, and didn't come back until a little bit after 11, which is when I got back. So I will apologize for the slow start, but I managed to get this done. I got those prepped so that they can be primed, and I'll take care of that either later today or tomorrow, depending on the temperature, where I do my spray priming. And then I will be painting them. You can't see them. The camera up so you can see them. There. I'll be painting these 6. Maybe not finishing them, but getting them started on Friday. Yeah, there it is. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you Friday morning, internet willing, and have a good day.